Hello everyone! So I'm doing more of a story time video today where I'm going to be drawing some and talking some about a crazy experience that happened to me while I was on my foreign exchange. So for those of you who don't know, my foreign exchange was to Japan. I was supposed to be there for 5 months, but that turned into 10 months. And I had 4 different host families. While I was there. I was originally only supposed to have 2, but then I extended my stay, and of course this video will tell you why I was not able to stay at one of the houses. So my first host family was really cool. They had a grandpa, grandma, a mom, and I had 2 siblings. Grandpa, grandma, mom, and 2 siblings. And I really connected with them really well. Because my Japanese wasn't very good at the time, they really helped me because they spoke a little bit of English, and it really helped me just get acclimated to what I was doing and helped me learn quite a bit of Japanese. The mom, or the grandma, had a problem with my weight because I was overweight at the time, and so she would tell me a lot that I was obese, and it was true, but I tried really hard to not let it bother me. But I had to leave because their son was going to college, and it was just too much for them to move him to Tokyo and have me stay there at the same time. So I left, and I went to the second family. Oh, they had a dog. Oh, both of them had a dog. Anyway, there I had a mom, and I finally had a dad. I had a little sister who was 14, and I had a younger brother who was 7. And they didn't speak any English. At this time, I had kind of, I don't know, I had kind of gotten used to it, and I wasn't ready yet for speaking so much Japanese, so a lot of our conversations were through the translator, and it got a little hard on them. But they were only supposed to care for me through the 5 months, so when I extended my stay, I had to leave because they couldn't keep me for that long. This is where the story gets interesting. This is my third host family. I had a grandma, a mom and dad, a younger sister who was 14, and an even younger sister who was 2. This is where this story takes place. I had a big connection with them. The mom spoke a little bit of English, but we spoke a lot in Japanese. I really liked my younger sister. We shared a room together, and the 2-year-old and we didn't talk a whole bunch, but she wasn't fussy. Like, she was a very well-behaved 2-year-old. Our grandma would often make a whole bunch of food with us, and we had cousins that would come over all the time, and I really, really liked it. And so, what do I draw? And so, this is when disaster struck. This is what happened. I had received presents from each of my host families, my 2 previous host families, and both of them had gotten me a pair of chopsticks for my present of hey, welcome to our home, you know? That's bad chopsticks, but you know what I'm saying. And so when I came to their house, they gave me a pair of chopsticks, and I was like, oh, this is my pair of chopsticks. And so I'd always carried the chopsticks to the different houses with me, and I sent the other ones home because the house that I would go to next would have a pair for me. So I just sent them home so they would be in America. And so I was packing up a box to go to America, and not everything was fitting in it, and so my mom offered to help me with the box. And so I had a little bit of a confession. There was a smaller box inside that box filled with these little ball machine toys, and I was worried that she would think badly of me because of how much money I'd spent on these little toys. They were going to be like souvenirs for my friends back in America, but I was still really worried about how she would feel about it. And so I didn't want her to open this little box. And so the other thing I had in this box was some BL manga, which is manga that has a gay relationship in it. And not that Japan is not cool with that. Obviously, I bought it there. But I thought maybe she would feel bad because I had it in the room with her younger sister, her younger daughter. And so I was worried that she was going to be like, oh, my 14-year-old daughter could have easily read this and stuff like that. And so I wanted to keep that hidden just because I didn't want it to cause unnecessary drama inside the box. But when we were going through the box, she found the chopsticks. And she said nothing, and we continued to pack everything away. And then I sent the box off to my house in the US. I don't know how much time passed, but she basically came up and was like, about that box you sent, you had chopsticks in there. And I was like, yes, I had my chopsticks in there. And she's like, those weren't yours. They were just like ours. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to take them. I'll have my dad ship them back if you want. Like, it's no problem. I'm really sorry. I just always got chopsticks from my host family, so I thought that was like my chopsticks. I thought that was it. A simple misunderstanding of these chopsticks being given to me, but they were not. But it was more than that. My mom would often come into the bedroom when it was just me in there, and she would just yell at me about these chopsticks. And like, I would never understand it. I cried quite a few times just because she was like, because I thought it was just a simple misunderstanding. And so I never understood why it got so far and why she was so angry. And so after this, I got a phone call. I didn't have a cell phone in Japan, but I was lended one by this host family. It's the only host family that gave me a phone so they could contact me while I was at school. And I got a phone call. And it was my exchange agency. And the lady said, hey Sandra, we got some information from your host mom about these things. And it was the first time that someone else had said that you stole. And I was like, I accidentally took them. Like, it wasn't malicious, I didn't steal them. And so I tried to correct her, but she was quite evident on the fact that I had stolen them. And then I was like telling her about the chopsticks, and she said, what about the other stuff? And I said, what other stuff? And she said, you don't know about the other stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? Apparently my mom had made a list of things that she thought I'd stolen from them. Like my dad's razor. Or my baby sister's blanket. It was crazy. Why would I need an electric razor? Why would I need a baby blanket? None of it really made any sense to me. And so I said, she hasn't talked to that about me. It's clearly not something I ever did. But they kind of weren't having it. I was really seen as the bad person. And I guess that's just because they had taken me in and then I accidentally took chopsticks. But it was crazy. And the thing that I'll never really understand is, why didn't she just tell me when we were packing up my bag? Or my box? Why didn't she tell me, hey, those chopsticks aren't yours, what are you doing? Like, why did she have to wait till I sent it? And so that was confusing for me for a really long time, but I've kind of gotten over it now just because it'll never really be answered. So here's the chain of events. My host company, I don't want to name them, but my host company decides I need to switch houses. My family is no longer comfortable with me there anymore. So their decision was to have me move into my fourth house. That was really hard for me. On the day I moved out, I was packing up my suitcase, and my 4-year-old sister came into the room. I didn't really speak a whole lot of Japanese, but I told her what I wanted to. I said, do you know what's going on today? I said, I'm leaving. She seemed to understand, but she was only 2 at the time, so I thought, she doesn't really understand anything. And I hugged her. All of this is in Japanese, of course. And I hugged her and I cried a little bit. I said, I'm leaving. And she was like, okay. And she left the room. When I was getting into the car to go to the train station, my mom said, hey, you never said sorry to your grandma, because I guess they were her chopsticks. And so I apologized, but she looked on the verge of tears. And she just insistently said, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And my mom was holding that 2-year-old sister. And she started going crazy. My mom was trying to calm her down, like, she's just going to school, it's just school. But she knew. She said, no, she's leaving. She understood everything that I had told her. And she cried and cried and cried when I left, because I told her that I loved her. And now I was leaving her. The drive to the train station was silent. And at the time I thought that my dad and my sister didn't like me. That they had the same views as my mom when she thought I was a thief. And she told me it to my face. Thief. When we got to the train station, we sat for a few minutes. My sister handed me a card she had made, and it really meant a lot to me. I still have it. It's filled with English song lyrics from songs we used to sing together. But the next thing that happened is one of the experiences in Japan that I will never forget because it meant a lot to me. The lady who was escorting me to my new house arrived. And me and my dad were standing next to my suitcase. My sister was over quite a bit. And I had my hand on the suitcase. With my hand on the suitcase handle, he put his hand on top of mine. I thought maybe he wanted to carry my suitcase. I looked at him and he gave me an awkward one-armed hug with his other on the suitcase. And I returned it with an awkward one-handed hug on the suitcase. When we separated, I noticed that he was crying. And I just said, "Papa," and I hugged him again, an actual hug, both arms. And he gave me an apology. Is it an I or an E? Whatever. He gave me an apology. He said, "You will always be my daughter." And I left. I don't blame my host mom, though I probably should. She was going through a lot at the time. I think my little sister kept getting sick, and I think her mom, who was in Kyushu, which is quite a ways away, was dying. I think she wanted me to leave because I was too much. But I do think she liked me. That is the end of this story. And it was a crazy time, but I don't regret it at all. If you're thinking about going on exchange, I would do it. It was the best time of my life. And I don't regret a second of it. With that said, these were the chopsticks that got me kicked out of my house in Japan.